What's up, everybody? This is Francel on the Parker's podcast, shooting in the lab studios with our producer, Christian. Today, we have a special guest for you, Mr. Michael Courington. He is the, regional sales?
I am a regional sales consultant.
All right, for Tropic Supply. Not officially here for Tropic Supply, but just giving us some information.
Absolutely.
So we're going to start off with a couple questions just because in 2025, there's going to be a lot of changes, but some of these changes are taking effect now in regards to air conditioning equipment based on what the EPA is kind of forcing our hand to do.
Mandating is the word.
Mandating. And we're all kind of behind the gun to catch up to all the different things that they want us to, comply with. Can you just give us a brief oversight of what some of those things look like, not just from a technical aspect, but from a consumer standpoint?
Sure. So what is happening is the EPA is mandating a change to a new refrigerant. The refrigerant we've been using for probably a dozen years or more now is a refrigerant called R410A. And that refrigerant specifically was introduced into the air conditioning industry in an effort to reduce ozone depletion.
Correct.
That was the big scare back a dozen plus years ago. It did an effective job, supposedly, in that regard. But now the big issue is global warming, in the EPA's mind. The new refrigerant that they are going to mandate the industry use, which can be in 2 or 3 different forms. But basically, that new refrigerant has a much lower what they call global warming potential than the refrigerant we're using now.
I don't know what that means.
I have no idea what. So what? The best way to describe it is the amount of heat that the new refrigerant will hold in the atmosphere. Is supposed to be almost 5 times less than what 410A holds, to significantly reduce the amount of heat in our atmosphere and thus reduce the global warming potential, if you will, that we're seeing.
I have to ask this question because and I know you don't work with the EPA, but I'm kind of maybe a simple-minded thinker, okay? If the atmosphere is heating up the way that they say it is, then why is it still snowing? Why do we still have rain being produced the way that it always has? If those things were actually taking place, you would think that it would reduce the snowfall simply because the atmosphere is warmer, the water can't crystallize and then fall down as snow.
As with most things that are government mandated and have politics behind them, it always seems to be that if we don't stop it, terrible things are going to happen. Now,
Gotcha.
It's just nobody ever actually experiences that, but that's the tool that they use to drive policy.
Gotcha. Okay.
And whether you agree with it or not, and we're probably on the same page as whether we do or don't.
Right.
Look, will it help? It may in regards to what the United States does, but the thing that's difficult is there's so many other countries, India, China, other Southeastern Asia, Vietnam, etc., that do not care about this stuff. And they're not held to the same policies that the EPA holds the United States to. So we can go through a lot of effort and expense, and that's where that's where this ultimately takes us, to try to do what the EPA thinks we should do, but around the world there's tons of other countries that are not under the same guidelines, and thus does it really help? Who knows?
Right. There's a rumor that I heard recently, and I don't even know where it came from, that 410A was supposed to be a temporary solution for R22, and that it just didn't go away as fast as it was initially supposed to because it did a good job filling the void of something to replace R22.
I've heard the same rumors. I can't really substantiate it.
Yeah.
But you hear stuff like that.
So the new refrigerant that's coming out, there's a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation, but maybe just uncertainties on the semi-flammable aspect of it. And some of what I've read in the classes I've gone through said that it's not necessarily the refrigerant itself that's flammable, but the oil, kind of like R22, the oil was flammable. But that never really had a semi-flammable label on it.
Right. So the new refrigerant is going to be classified as what they call an A2L. And what that means is the EPA gives refrigerants 4 different levels of flammability.
Okay.
410A, which we are using now and have been using for a dozen or more years, is basically non-flammable. It's a level 1 refrigerant. Okay. The POE oil, or mineral oil, that you and I are familiar with, that is in the system with the refrigerant, it is flammable.
Right.
Okay. So it's not refrigerant that's flammable in our existing systems, but it's the POE oil, and you have to do certain. You almost have to try to
Yes.
to get any type of ignition out of what we're dealing with. But the refrigerant itself, 410A, does not have any flammability. Okay, the new refrigerant, the A2L, is at the lowest end of the second level, 1, which means it does have a flammability characteristic to it if you really attempt to light it up. In other words, you would have to hold a very high heat flame to it for a period of time before it would ignite. And when it does ignite, it's a very low heat, low spread ignition. So it's hard to make it run. You can't think of it like gasoline, where you see in the movies where somebody throws a match and all of a sudden it takes off and blows up the gas station. This is not anything at all like that. So, and the other really good thing is once you remove the heat source from it, it extinguishes.
Okay.
So it is not propane based. There are absolutely no hydrocarbons in it whatsoever. Wow. Right. And it uses the same POE oil that we use for the 410A product. So everybody should really take a deep breath. And by the way, this refrigerant has been used in the automobile industry for the last half dozen years.
Oh, so the thing that makes everyone kind of uneasy about it is when they come down with the regulations of the special vacuum pumps, the special tools, and if it's really not that serious or flammable per se, why go through all the trouble of replacing all of the equipment used to, work with it? And I think that's what incited a lot of panic.
Right. So when it comes to the tools and processes we use with the new A2L refrigerant, it's going to look and feel very similar to what we have now. The pressures and temperatures that we work with to gauge whether an air conditioning system is operating properly are almost identical. They're within 10 degrees, 10 pounds of each other.
Oh, nice.
So, and way back when we went from R22 refrigerant to 410, there was a big difference in pressures and temperatures that the whole technical end of our industry had to get accustomed to.
Right.
Not so much with this. It's going to look, feel, react very similar as far as the pressures and temperatures in the air conditioning system. But we live in a very litigious society. So what they're going to do is the manufacturers of the air conditioning equipment are going to avoid any litigation in any form that they can. So what they are going to do on the new equipment is put leak detectors internal to the equipment.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. And they're also going to put what we call non-sparking or sealed electrical components in the equipment. By doing this, they just take what possibly could happen 1 out of 1,000 times and turn it into 1 out of 1,000,000 times.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So everybody is going to prevent any type of a catastrophe that they can.
That makes sense from a business mindset. A lot of times, I was telling my cousin this last night in conversation because she gave me a great business idea. And I said, the idea is great, but you're not thinking of the liability aspect of things. You know, you can have the best idea, but if there's such a high liability that the insurances that you have to pay or the legal fees you have to pay, it kind of negates the idea. Right. So that's what it sounds like they did is they said, okay, we're forced to move this direction, but to cover ourselves, we're going to put all of these parameters in place to limit our liability.
That's correct. Okay. And of course, what comes along with that? Additional cost.
Yes.
Right. So the equipment, by necessity, if they have to do these things, is going to be more expensive. Some of the things you'll have to do when servicing the product is going to take a little extra time. There's expense there. So unfortunately for the consumer, when we get probably 6 to 9 months out when all this new equipment starts arriving, and that's when they're planning because, and we'll talk about this, if the existing EPA, what's the right word, their idea of when this has to happen is accurate, then this equipment is going to have to be in the contractor's hands in 6 to 7 months from now.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at is originally when the EPA came down and said we're going to change this refrigerant and they started putting tentative dates on it, most everybody understood that starting in 2025, the air conditioning manufacturers were going to have to start producing their equipment with this refrigerant. That was not a problem. Everybody said, okay, well, there's a starting point.
Yeah.
But what the ruling is the word I was looking for. The ruling that they've thrown out, and this is about a month ago, said that not only are the manufacturers not going to be able to manufacture the product in 25, but the contractors and the distributors are not going to be able to sell and or install the 410A equipment anymore in 2025.
So we just got caught up on all of our inventory from COVID,
SEER to SEER 2.
Yeah, SEER to SEER 2. I mean, and a lot of our consumers are wondering, like, why are parts taking so long? Why is it taking so long to get equipment? Well, a lot of this is out of our hand based on powers way above even the distributor.
Right. The distributors and the contractors get most of the downhill roll on this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, eventually the consumers because of the cost involved. But they are basically telling us as a distributor that we have to run out of equipment, yet have new equipment and simultaneously. And how do you do that? Most everybody thought, Francel, that they were going to say, okay, this is the start date. Any 410A equipment that you have left in your warehouses is going to be allowed to be sold through, as we call it.
That was the transition they did with the R22 systems.
Right, and it went pretty smoothly in that regard.
Yeah.
So once this ruling came out a month ago, all the air conditioning lobbyists and everybody else went storming into Washington and to the EPA's door and started trying to say, you're going to kill us with this thing, right? You're going to create a situation where the distributors have got to run out of equipment, and you're going to force the contractors to immediately start preparing themselves for the new A2L refrigerant when it could have been 6-9 months down the line. So hopefully that ruling will be overturned and they will allow that sell through. But if they don't come up with that within the next 30 days or so, then the distribution channels have to start doing what they have to do because we can't get stuck with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Now, I'm not going to hold you to this, but do we have some sort of idea of what the price increase can be roundabout when this takes effect?
Yeah, I would suspect that you're going to see another probably 10 to 12% bump in air conditioning pricing from the beginning of this year. Prices are going up approximately from all the manufacturers 5 to 6% here at the start of this 2024 year. But in mid-2024, when that A2L equipment arrives, it's going to be another 10% on top of that.
So we're looking at within second quarter being up a total of 15 to 20%, possibly?
From where we are right now.
From where we are right now.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Right.
That's significant.
It's significant, and it's from a consumer standpoint, if you're on the fence, now's a really good time to buy. The contractors, manufacturers, distributors are all trying to get rid of the 410A equipment, so we're going to be as aggressive as we can be, and it's only going to go higher from here, which is tragic, but it's what it is.
And it's funny because I hear some customers, well, I just bought, or a family member of mine bought an air conditioner 2 or 3 years ago, and it wasn't even close to this price. And that's what we're hearing now. So if you wait till second quarter of 2024, you're gonna be in that you're gonna be even more removed from that price.
More so.
The days of a 5,000 air conditioner are
long gone.
Gone.
Well, there's the same as the days of a $15,000 automobile. They don't exist anymore, right? So it's just everybody who is a manufacturer or contractor is subject to this. Mm-hmm. The guy's putting the tile in your house, the guy, everybody is subject to this. And the air conditioning industry, maybe more so than anyone, because we have the EPA.
Yeah.
With both feet involved in it, as we're discussing.
So then on the next point, from the consumer standpoint, housing market or housing interest rates are going through the roof.
Right.
What is that? Is there anything associated with this from an interest rate on a financing option that we should see or be concerned about?
Well, right now, it looks like what we're seeing from most of the financiers in the air conditioning industry is Synchrony's a huge entity in the financing of air conditioning equipment. Wells Fargo, there's a half a dozen of them, right? But they have not shot their rates up as much as what we see for home mortgages and automobiles, et cetera. So that's the one bit of good news that we can have. Is we do have really good options to finance air conditioning equipment, and it's getting to the point where the expense is such that homeowners truly need to look at that option, because there are programs out there by the financiers to the distributors and down to the contractors that really try to help promote that. So look into that with your air conditioning contractors.
And it's always better to research it before you're in a situation where you actually have to make a decision, and have that information moving forward. I try to educate a lot of our personal customers on, hey, you're in good standings right now with the condition of your air conditioner, but we always want you to see what options are available to you, look at what financing options are available and what the interest rates are going to be in the different programs that are out there. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're in the middle of summer, your air conditioner completely dies, and now you don't have a plan of action.
Yeah, you're under the gun, and it's not like your microwave going out. I mean, literally in this area, average air conditioning prices are going to push $10,000 or more.
Wow.
It seems crazy, but that's where it is.
And it's funny because traditionally this market area doesn't see them that high. That's more of a Naples, Tampa, Sarasota type scenario. We've been fortunate to be able to keep our prices relatively economical in this area.
Right. So and those other areas that you're talking to are pushing $12,000-15,000 for air conditioning units. Wow. So consumers need to be very aware of the different tools, i.e. financing, that they have available to them to help make that a little easier to swallow.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, let's change gears a little bit. Can you tell everyone kind of who you are and a little bit more about Michael and not so much air conditioning?
Yeah. If you're listening and hear this accent and go, where is that guy from? I was born and raised in the Mobile, Alabama area, and I've never lost a little bit of this southern drawl. This air conditioning industry is actually the third industry I've been in my professional career. I started out selling industrial rotating equipment, compressors, and pumps, and things of that nature, and then had a great job in the electronic components industry for a dozen years, where I was selling large OEM manufacturers the guts of what they would put into their equipment, like mixer boards, and I was one of the first guys to sell the Hummingbird fish finders and give them LCD displays in their fish finders.
What?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was fun.
Now you're speaking to my passion. When you start talking fishing, man,
Right.
My ears perked up.
Right. Yeah. So
Hummingbird led the industry in some of their technology, like with sonars.
Yeah. They had the original flashers, and then of course that naturally transitioned into the screens.
Yeah.
And I was working with them back in the day when they were first getting started, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. Anyway, I live in the South Sarasota, North Venice area, and travel 75, 100 miles up and down, calling on the various contractors that I do business with. And I've been in the air conditioning industry now for 22 years. So.
Wow.
So first as a commercial sales rep, then actually as an in-home residential sales rep, and then as a territory manager for Carrier Bryant, and then Tropic Supply for the last 15, 16 years. And I love the company I work for. They're a private company, a father and son owned company, which is a different animal, and it has a very different feel than some of our Wall Street type competitors. So
a little more personal.
Yeah, it's my cup of tea. So I'm in the right spot with it. I like the people I work for, and I like the people I work with.
Nice. So I have to ask you a big question, because you said something that I wasn't fully aware of. Mobile, Alabama. So are you like one of those Roll Tide kind of guys?
Well, that would be my arch enemy. There's two colleges in the state of Alabama. One is the University of Alabama, and the other is Auburn University.
Okay.
And I'm an Auburn University graduate.
Nice.
And Alabama just threw a Hail Mary pass 2 weeks ago.
One of the best games ever.
To beat us on a 4th and 31, and took a good 5 years off my life. But yeah, that was great. A great experience going to Auburn. It was an engineering school primarily, and that's the reason I went there. And just was great. Mobile was a great place to grow up too. I grew up there in the I'm going to age myself now, but in the 60s and early 70s, and it was just a wonderful place to grow up.
Nice.
Yeah.
For me, the only recollection I have of that area was the Iron Bowl. What was that, 2015? The field goal return.
Oh, the kick six.
Yes, man. I'm telling you what, like, I have never rooted for Auburn so hard in my entire life just to see Alabama fall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We've had them on the ropes a couple of times here in the last few years too, but couldn't pull the trigger. And it's they know when they come into Jordan Hare Stadium at Auburn, it doesn't matter. I mean, the last two times they've come in, once they were undefeated and once they had one loss, and they scraped out both times by the skin of their teeth. So it's fun. I've got a lot of good friends who are Alabama graduates who give me the business when something like that happens. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Alabama's interesting because it is a college football state.
Yeah.
Right. There's no professional team, and there's never been one, except just briefly with the USFL. Birmingham had a professional team, but no NFL teams. Right. The closest one to where I grew up were the Saints, the New Orleans Saints, and they were just awful back in those days. That's when they were called the Aints and everything else. So anyway, college football has a huge stronghold in the state of Alabama, and so it's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. So on your spare time, or what do you do for recreation or leisure?
Well, I do a little bit of fishing, a little bit of golfing, just a little bit. I do some working out, and do a lot of stuff with my church family, church group. Yeah, my wife and I are born again Christians, and we love the Lord, and we love the people that we are close to, and those we can get close to.
Yeah, and I mean, It's funny. That's a recurring theme on our show. Is like, we're not ashamed to profess our belief, and being a Christian means so much to so many different people. And for us to serve is one of the driving factors of Cooling Dynamics. Is like, we're not in it to get rich. We're in it to serve people, to educate people, and to be a light in the community.
Amen. Yeah, and a lot of people have a misconception as to what Christianity means, and we just profess that we are fallen and we're sinners and we need a Savior, and God in His grace and mercy provided us one through His Son, and you can't help but be just happy and joyous about that.
100%. Like, there's nothing that we could physically do to earn it or to even deserve it. It's just understanding that we needed Him to intervene on our behalf.
It is a gift.
Yeah.
It is purely His grace. So it gives me a great reason to get up every morning and be of service, as you said. Share when people are open to hearing about the gospel and go from there.
Yeah, and it's funny because like every morning, our guys, we pray before we leave the shop. Lord, give us the opportunity to reflect You in what we say and what we do and how we conduct ourselves, and open those doors for us to be able to speak about You to other people. Because when you look at society, man, it's getting darker and darker, and it's in more need of us to stand up and be that beacon of light, beacon of hope to those that don't know Him.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of like you said, darkness out there, and that's never going to go away. But there is a hope and a solution for that.
Yeah.
And so many people either don't know about it or don't understand it.
Right.
They think it's something else. They think a church is a bunch of holier than thou people, and a real Christian understands it's the last thing he is. He is fallen and he needs a Savior. And that's great news to share with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming on, and I appreciate your time and us being able to get insight into, number one, what the industry is moving forward with from an air conditioning perspective, and just insight into who you are as a person.
Thank you.
We have a working relationship, and I've always, had a huge respect for you because you've helped me navigate even in my own business in different aspects, and give me opportunities to educate ourselves and our guys, and always gave us the tools we needed to educate our customers and help them with real solutions to different things that they're facing.
Thank you, Francel. It's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy way back when we first met. We sat down and you were getting started, and I said, here's some tools and some thoughts and some things, and we didn't have a lot going on at that point in time, but it was fun to talk about, how you could get from point A to point Z and what you could do along the way, and that's one of the reasons I'm still doing this. Yeah. I'm no spring chicken, but I enjoy it because it's fun, and I get to meet a lot of great people and get to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. This has been Francel and Michael
yeah.
on the Parker's podcast. We'll check you next time.
Peace.
Thank you.